How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, very happy to have you with me. You can text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, so much more. In particular, however, if you text the word Eric, text the word recipe, singular, no S, recipe, to 33777. You can get my cookbook. It's a very small PDF for you of all the things I made the chocolate pie last night. I'll be smoking a turkey. I'll be making gumbo. There's a lot of stuff in there. My gravy recipe is what you want, though. My friend Julie texted me or emailed, and she said, your gravy is fantastic. She's making it. Here's the thing. So I have a gravy recipe. It's a very easy to do gravy recipe. But one of the things that I despise about cookbooks is they tell you to brown the onion for 5 minutes. You can't brown an onion in 5 minutes, people. It takes 20 minutes on medium heat in butter to get the onions the way you want to get the onions. And then you don't taste an overwhelming onion flavor. You taste a sweet flavor, and it adds some texture. And so the gravy recipe, all I'm telling you, is like 20 minutes on medium heat. You stir those onions. They're going to brown. They're going to shrink up into nothing, and it's going to give you a great flavor. Now, here's the key to avoid the lumpy gravy for your holidays. You put the flour into the butter or the fat, whatever you're using, whether it's oil or butter or beef tallow, doesn't matter. You put your flour in the fat and you stir it around. Before you add a liquid, you put your flour into the fat. Why? The flour absorbs the fat and it begins to brown. The longer it goes, the less thickening power it has. So you don't want to spend a lot of time stirring your flour, just a couple of minutes to get the raw flour flavor out. And then you add your liquid. If you add the liquid too soon, you're going to get clumpy gravy. That's the secret to avoiding clumpy gravy. You put the flour in, let it stir around for a couple of minutes, get the clumps out. It soaks up all the fat, and then it can't clump up. And if you've only stirred it for a couple minutes with a whisk, then it's also still going to thicken. The longer, this is the thing with a gumbo. All a gumbo is flour and oil, but you stir it for so long, it loses its thickening power. That's why you then add filet or okra. All I'm saying, avoid the lumpy gravy, get my recipe, but you spend 20 minutes with those onions, cut them small, spend 20 minutes with them. You're going to thank me later. It's the best gravy recipe. Just text the word recipe, singular, recipe, to 33777. Click through that link. You'll see it. My holiday recipes. Get the gravy. You'll thank me later. Stop ruining your gravy on Thanksgiving. There's no excuse for lumpy gravy. I make it easy for you. Okay. We can move on. We have to move on. We have other news. Reviewing the breaking news real quick. The cabinet in Israel will be voting tomorrow on a peace plan for Lebanon. And Jack Smith has filed to dismiss his prosecutions of Donald Trump, the classified documents case and the January 6th case. He's moving to dismiss all of them. Also, Damian Williams has resigned. He is the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He has prosecuted Eric Adams, Bob Menendez, Sean Puffy Combs. The current Deputy U.S. Attorney, Edward Kim, will take his place until the Trump nomination. And Trump is nominating the former SEC Chairman, Jay Clayton, to become his U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Now, what happens typically in this situation, this isn't some sort of scandal. People are making this out to be a big scandal. at the end of presidential administrations, a lot of U.S. attorneys will leave so their deputies can take on the title, because it will help their deputies once they become the U.S. attorney in their later career to get better jobs if they've been even an acting U.S. attorney. So out of good grace, a lot of them do this. There's no scandal there that I know of. But this guy has been a pretty prolific prosecutor in New York, and he is out. We need to talk about black women. That's a transition, isn't it? No subtlety in that transition, Erickson. You're just going straight from the prosecutor. Here's the breaking news. So let's talk about black women. I have a lot of black women who listen to my program, I want you to know. And they all call in. They have strongly held opinions. Kenya Hunter of the Associated Press did this story. Here's the headline: feeling betrayed by increased minority support for Trump. Black women say they're stepping back. As she checked into a recent flight from Mexico for vacation, Teja Smith chuckled at the idea of joining another women's march in Washington. As a black woman, she just couldn't see herself helping to replicate the largest act of resistance against then-President Donald Trump's first term in January of 2017, even in an election year this year where Trump questioned his opponent's race, held rallies featuring racist insults, and falsely claimed black migrants in Ohio were eating residents' pets. He didn't just win a second term. He became the first president in 2 decades to clinch the popular vote, although by a small margin. Stop. Donald Trump never claimed black migrants in Ohio were eating residents' pets. They were Haitians. That matters. He wasn't claiming that migrants from Zambia or Gabon or the Democratic Republic of Congo or Rwanda or anywhere else that has black-skinned migrants were eating pets. It happened to be Haiti. This article, in and of itself, is as loaded as it could possibly be. It's like the people have spoken, and this is what America looks like, says Teja Smith, the Los Angeles-based founder of the advocacy social media network Get Social. And there's not so much more fighting that you're going to be able to do without losing your own sanity. After Trump was declared the winner over Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris, many politically engaged black women said they were so dismayed by the outcome that they were reassessing their enthusiasm for electoral politics and movement organizing. Have you people never met a black woman who's a Republican? Y'all should come to Atlanta. A lady, you, by the way, you're based in Atlanta, apparently. Go meet Janelle King, please. There are plenty of black conservative women in America, and a lot of them listen to this program. This obsessive racial focus is one reason that the Democrats lost, that the Associated Press seems to think that all black women are Democrats and they're going to unplug from this country because Donald Trump won is fatuous nonsense. It is simply not true. Politically engaged black women are not a monolith of the Democratic Party. It is certainly true. It is certainly true that there are more black women who vote Democrat than Republican, but that has way more to do with the fact that they're Democrat, not that they're black. There are historic reasons the black vote is leaning Democrat in this country, and it's beginning to shift. But the focus, you can tell the tip-off right there when she talks about a black migrants in Springfield, Ohio, eating residents' pets. No, it was very specifically Haitian migrants who were eating the pets, and they weren't eating the pets, by the way. Turns out not to be true, but there were all sorts of problems. So many problems, as a matter of fact, that the Democrats assured us, Donald Trump was going to lose it. In fact, for the very first time, he won Springfield, Ohio. Why? Because the residents of Springfield, Ohio did not like the idea of overwhelming their city with migrants from Haiti, changing the social character of their town, and burdening social services in their town. And the media said that was all nonsense. It turns out not to be nonsense. It was the truth the whole time. They just lied about it because they couldn't fathom telling Americans the truth about Joe Biden's political situation and his public policies. Y'all, if you're giving up on America like the guy who's moved to Northern Ireland or the supposed mass array of black women who are just sitting back and tapping out, if you've got all Joy Reid that black men are racist, they're racist. Maybe you just need to step out of politics altogether because you're nuts. I need you to hear me. And I say this lovingly. But you are a world-class moron if you think that Donald Trump is going to impose authoritarianism in the United States. If you think this country is racist because a coalition, a multi-ethnic, multiracial coalition voted for Donald Trump, you're an idiot. Note to the Trump supporters who say I disparage them all the time. Well, I'm not talking about you right now, am I? I'm talking about these idiots on the other side. We got idiots on all sides. People are stupid. And some very, very stupid people have bought into the idea that Donald Trump being elected president would be some sort of cataclysmic event in this country. Well, it certainly is for progressives now, but you just had a incoming president of the United States put a pro-abortion activist in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services and a pro-union activist in charge of the Labor Department. Things don't look really bad for anybody out there unless you're a dyed-in-the-wool conservative like me. You people are idiots, though. I got to tell you, the racial framing in this country, and this is part of the brokenness in our media, is how everything must be framed racially. Everything must be framed in a narrative. There's no fact-based telling of stories anymore. It's all, we got to find an antagonist and a protagonist, and the protagonist is always someone on the intersectional spectrum who is not a white man. And the antagonist is always a white man. Jim Van Dyke got an award. He's the head of Axios, the left-wing news site that uses the phrases unhoused and pregnant person as opposed to homeless and pregnant woman. And listen to him, his speech at the National Press Club where he's getting an award.
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying like, we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is, bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter any more than me looking at your head and seeing that you have a brain and telling you have an awesome set of tools makes me a damn neurosurgeon, right? Like what we do, what journalists do, what you did in Mississippi, what Al Jazeera does in the Middle East. You don't proclaim yourself to be a reporter. Like that's nonsense.
The arrogance of these people. During the Bush administration, writing at redstate.com, as a young guy, just gotten married, and I broke the news of who George Bush's picks to the Supreme Court would be. I was the very first person to tell people his original pick, Harriet Miers, had given money to Al Gore. I broke the news. You know, reporters at the New York Times and others, they sourced the news to me. They never mentioned my name because I wasn't a reporter. I beat them to the scoop. These are arrogant people. Arrogant people. They think the First Amendment freedom of the press belongs to them, not to everyone. And they're doing these stories at the Associated Press about black women sitting out of politics because they didn't win. Their side didn't win. It's not all black women. It is an arrogance of the press to cover these stories the way they do. And they're losing. They're losing eyeballs. They're losing viewers. They're losing readers because of their arrogance, because they believe that they have they're the gatekeepers of truth. They're not. They're just a bunch of broken partisan progressives who just got their butt kicked in the election, and they don't know how to handle it. And now they're trying to run these silly stories, repackaging 2024 in a racial frame of mind because it's all they know how to do, which is exactly why they're losing. I'm going to spend a little more time tomorrow, probably at the beginning of the show, talking about Thanksgiving. But I do want to say something. It's been on my mind, the shift in men to the GOP. And there's this culture of politically active young men that I see that are Theo Bro, Jim Bro. It's like they all go to the same barber. They have become very homogenized. It's very weird, actually. And it's very bro culture. I need to say this, and it's something I tell my son. I was listening to a sermon the other day that on this as well. You know, when the ark, or Noah and the ark, his sons and sons' wives and his wife, they received safe passage on the ark, not because of anything they did, but because of what Noah did. Noah found favor in God's eyes. Whether you think it's a myth, a story, or real, I'm in the it's real camp. The fact of the matter is there's a lesson to be learned that your character does matter. And particularly young men who are becoming more and more politically active, if you view life as you got to own the left, you're doing it wrong. Your kids find no safe passage on an ark because you own the left. They find safe passage because you found favor in God's eyes. And as you young guys are getting in politics, I just want you to be more and more mindful of the fact that character has to count for something. If you don't have good character, if you're not someone people can put their trust in, if you're not someone people who disagree with you can learn from, you're not going to end well, and your family's not going to end well. So as you move forward and you sit around at Thanksgiving, don't own the left around the kitchen table. Instead, celebrate your family for Thanksgiving. That's what matters most. Now, Americans for Prosperity has been out knocking on doors around the country, trying to get people involved in the process. And they use an army of volunteers across the country who engage people where they are, and they engage conversationally. They give you the facts and the data to make a persuasive case for common sense conservative reform, but they also teach you how to relate to people where they are without lecturing them. I would love for you to join up with AFP. They can make you a highly effective conservative activist, and they have chapters in just about every state. What you do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Look, you're at the end of the season. In politics, the election is over. The fight always continues. You want to be as effective as you can. Americans for Prosperity can help you. Go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. Sign up with AFP. Get all the facts and figures you need on how to advance free market conservative reforms in this country. They'd love to have you. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. This is a special announcement. This is a very important announcement before I do anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your undivided attention. Now, today, is the time to take your turkey out of the freezer and put it in the refrigerator. Do not leave it on the counter. Do not let a turkey thaw out on the counter. You will poison your whole family. Put it in the refrigerator. Go on. You can do it today. Don't forget, when you get home from work, put your turkey in the refrigerator. You want to give it 48 to 72 hours to start thawing out. Now, let's just say you're a procrastinator like me. What you're going to do is on Wednesday have a oh my gosh moment, and you're going to put it in cold water in the sink. Are you leaving? I love you. My child was here. She brought me coffee. She's wonderful. She will be in my will. Not sure about the other kid. Just take your turkey out, people. Put it in the fridge. If on Wednesday you get to Wednesday and you have forgotten your host's advice because he cares about you and loves you, put it in the sink or a bathtub and fill it up with cold water, not hot water. Do not use hot water. Do not use hot water. And you will put your turkey in there, replace the water every hour or so, even put some ice in it. You want to keep it cold, and it'll come up to temperature, and you're going to want to do it. But I would recommend that you put your turkey in the refrigerator today. Now, there's one other tip I got for you. Put it in a garbage bag. Don't throw the garbage bag away with your turkey inside, but put it in a garbage bag. Here's why. Sometimes you can't see it in the little plastic wrap or the wrap that the turkeys are in, but there might be a little tear. When that turkey starts thawing out, if there's a tear, all the juices are going to leak out into your fridge. So put it in a bag, put it in a trash bag or something that's not going to leak, so you don't get turkey juice all over, raw turkey juice all over the inside of your refrigerator. I speak from personal experience on that one. Now, let me go to the phones. Just listen. Don't say I don't care about you people. I'm going to go to Bert, who is calling from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Bert, welcome to the Eric Erickson Show.
Hey, Eric. I have no illusions about Trump. I think the economy is going to tank worse than it is now before it gets better. He's going to have very little money to work with to accomplish things, but I want gasoline cars, not to be told what appliances I can buy. I want companies and schools not strapped by DEI and climate control. But I got a feeling this is going to be a bust. And my thought was that when he ran in 2016, he was not beholden to anyone. You know, nobody expected him to win. Nobody was pumping, money into him. This time he's got so many sycophants around him, and he seems to be beholden to special interests, whether it's the crypto guys or I love Elon Musk, but, he just seems to be, I don't understand these picks, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard, who was nice to him.
Yeah, okay, so I actually view it, if I'm honest, the exact reverse. In 2016, he wanted to win whether you or I thought he could, and this time he's a lame duck from day one. He owes nobody anything, literally, because he's never going to run again. He can't run again. So he can act on impulse and go with the people who are nice to him, who he trusts. He does, I know from talking to those in his orbit, he believes that when he ran the first time, he was inexperienced, and a lot of people placed picks in his cabinet who were tied to the Republican establishment. And this time he hates the establishment. He is not tied to them. He's not bound to them. And so he can pick picks that he likes. And you and I may look at a Tulsi Gabbard and say, I don't know about this, but look, she endorsed him. She campaigned for him. He's loyal. She's loyal to him. He's loyal to her. Instead of hiring someone who is a pick from the GOP, he's hiring someone who's loyal to him. And you may not like that this time, but this is kind of my concern, in all honesty, is that Trump owes you nothing now. He's elected. He's not going to get removed from office. So he doesn't necessarily need to pick conservatives for his cabinet. In fact, even media outlets are realizing that he's got the most liberal cabinet a Republican presidential administration has ever had. And it's true. Jeanette Newshwat is the head of this, is going to be named Surgeon General pick. She's a Fox News medical correspondent who supported and advocated for the COVID vaccine and for vaccines generally. Marty Makary is going to be the FDA commissioner head. He's a surgeon and researcher at Johns Hopkins University. It's going to be very interesting. By the way, Dave Weldon's going to be the CDC director. Dave Weldon's a solid guy. Dave Weldon is actually a good pick for head of the CDC. So, it's a very eclectic cabinet. It is very eclectic. But this is who I think Donald Trump doesn't owe anybody anything anymore, and he's going with his gut. He's not allowing others to lead him. He's picking himself. And he does have people whispering in his ear, from Elon Musk to his son, and they're helping shape the cabinet. But this is going to be Trump's administration. He's picking them. You can't say it's someone else because they're Donald Trump's picks. Now, I want to turn your attention to a story Abigail Anthony has at National Review today. DEI training material increases perception of non-existent prejudice, agreement with Hitler rhetoric, study finds. The New York Times and Bloomberg both have buried stories. They've canceled stories about a report from the Network Contagion Research Institute, NCRI, and Rutgers University's Social Perception Lab. Here's the study. Instructing Animosity, How DEI Pedagogy Produces the Hostile Attribution Bias. The study examined whether the themes and materials common in DEI training foster inclusion or exacerbate conflict, and whether such materials promote empathy or increase hostility towards groups labeled as oppressors. The study consisted of 3 experiments, one focused on race, one focused on religion, and one focused on caste. Although proponents of DEI training claim that they're designed to educate individuals about biases and reduce discrimination, the study found that participants primed with DEI material were more likely to perceive prejudice where none existed and were more willing to punish perceived perpetrators. In one experiment, the DEI materials made people more willing to agree with Hitler quotes that substituted Jew with Brahmin, the highest caste in the Indian caste system. Participants exposed to the DEI content were markedly more likely to endorse Hitler's demonization statements, agreeing that Brahmins are parasites, viruses, and the devil personified, the study revealed. These findings suggest that exposure to anti-oppressive narratives can increase the endorsement of the type of demonization and scapegoating characteristics of authoritarianism. So here's how it worked. They assigned 423 Rutgers University undergraduates into 2 groups. A control group exposed to a neutral essay about U.S. corn production. The other exposed to an essay that combined materials from Ibram Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility. After exposure to either text, participants were presented with the following race-neutral scenario. Quote, a student applied to an elite East Coast university in fall 2024. During the application process, he was interviewed by an admissions officer. Ultimately, the student's application was rejected. That's all it said. A student applied to an elite East Coast university in fall 2024. During the application process, he was interviewed by an admissions officer. Ultimately, the student's application was rejected. That's it. The results showed participants primed with Kibram and DiAngelo material perceived discrimination from an administration officer, despite the absence of any racial identification and evidence of discrimination. Those participants also believed that the admissions officer was more unfair to the applicant, had caused more harm to the applicant, and had committed microaggressions. In addition to imputing bias without evidence, the participants who read Kendi and DiAngelo were 12% more willing to support suspending the admissions officer for a semester, 16% more willing to demand a public apology to the applicant, and 12% more willing to require additional DEI training to correct the officer compared to participants in the control group. Educational materials from some of the most well-published and well-known DEI scholars not only failed to positively enhance interracial attitudes, they provoked baseless suspicion and encouraged punitive attitudes, the study said. Now, again, here's what I need you to understand. This is the statement. This is the statement. This is what the students were given. Quote, a student applied to an elite East Coast university in fall 2024. During the application process, he was interviewed by an admissions officer. Ultimately, the student's application was rejected. That's it. Students who read a neutral essay about U.S. corn production did not find racial animosity. Students who read Ibram Kendi and Robin DiAngelo found racial animosity. People who read about U.S. corn production read that statement I've just now read to you 3 times, and they did not perceive that DEI training was necessary to correct discrimination. Those who read Ibram Kendi and Robin DiAngelo said there was. Lee Jessam is one of the professors at Rutgers who authored the study and said researchers purposely built some ambiguity into the scenarios. In social psychology, we purposefully study situations that have some ambiguity in order to evaluate whether and when people's biases influence their judgment of these situations. In the experiment on Islamophobia training, the researchers presented over 2,000 participants with either the essay about corn production or content from the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding organization that addresses Islamophobia. The participants were then presented with a scenario involving 2 hypothetical individuals, Ahmed Akhtar and George Green, who were both convicted of identical terrorism charges for bombing a local government building. The participants exposed to the corn essay perceived Akhtar and Green's trials as equally fair and did not indicate any perception of Islamophobia. After being exposed to anti-Islamophobia training materials, they rated Akhtar's trial as less fair. The results suggest that anti-Islamophobia training inspired by the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding materials may cause individuals to assume unfair treatment of Muslim people, even when no evidence of bias or unfairness is present. The third experiment about caste involved 850 participants. It used materials developed by Equality Labs, a self-described South Asian feminist organization that works to end caste apartheid, gender-based violence, Islamophobia, and racial intolerance. Participants were exposed to either caste sensitivity training material from Equality Labs or an academic essay about caste systems, and were then presented the following scenario. Raj Kumar applied to an elite East Coast university in fall 2022. During the application process, he was interviewed by an admissions officer, Anand Prakshka. Ultimately, Raj's application was rejected. The names were reversed between respondents to avoid the possibility that the results reflected interference biases from the names themselves. Rather than using a purely neutral control like the corn essay, we had a more historically accurate and less politically charged, less accusatory control essay on caste to see if we still see pernicious effects. The answer is yes. Compared to the group that read the neutral academic essay, the participants who were exposed to the DEI materials had a significantly higher perception of microaggressions, perceived harm, and assumptions of bias. Those who read the DEI materials showed a higher willingness to punish the admissions officer and assessed Hindus as more racist. In the caste experiment, participants were interviewed and asked to rate the accuracy of the following Hitler quotes, but they replaced the word Jew with Brahmin. 1. The Brahmin was only and always a parasite in the body of other peoples. The Brahmins are a people under whose parasitism the whole of honest humanity is suffering. 2, the personification of the devil as the symbol of all evil assumes the living shape of the Brahmin. And 3, innumerable sicknesses have their origin in one virus, the Brahmin. We will get well when we eliminate the Brahmin. Compared to the control group, those DEI prime participants had a 35% increase agreeing with the parasite statement, 27% increase in the devil personified statement, and a 33% increase in agreeing with the virus statement. In other words, the more you're exposed to DEI training, the more you agree with Hitler. Bloomberg and the New York Times both were going to write stories about this and then canceled their stories because they didn't want to undermine the DEI training efforts that they themselves do. There's your punchline. Now, let me tell you about Vision Computers. It's Christmas time. You may be wanting to spend some money for your business at the end of the year to buy new equipment on this year's taxes. And if you do, well, Vision Computers can give you great computers and give you their award, their 5-star service. I keep saying award-winning it is, and it's incredible. And you can get it if you don't have a Vision computer for $179 a year. But if you buy a computer from Vision, you get the same service and you don't have to pay anything for the service. You buy your computer from Vision. They can build it for you here for the holidays, give you exactly what you want and need. They work with you, and then they answer the phone. And you get answers to your questions quicker than you can get on Google and try to find the answer. And they can even move over your email. They can move over your documents. They can move over your apps. You don't have to do a bunch of reinstalls. They copy everything over for you to the new machine, so you don't have to worry at all. They can even remote in and help you with email and printer support, all that. All you do is go to visioncomputers.com or call them at 404-COMPUTE. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE and you tell them Eric sent you, you're going to get an even better deal. Vision Computers can build you a computer, migrate all of your existing stuff on your existing computer to the new one, and then be your tech support solution. If you buy the computer from Vision, the tech support comes complete with the package, no extra fee, and it's marvelous. We use them at our house. We love them. VisionComputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, it's too late. Too bad. Okay, I want to end with a clip from, of all people, Bill Clinton with Jonathan Capehart. Just listen to this for a minute.
Mr. President, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm glad to be here.
So, in your new book, Citizen, My Life After the White House, you write, and I quote, "By the time you read Citizen, we'll know who won. I hope enough people will have chosen the benefits of inclusive economic and social policies and of preserving democracy against abusive power to turn the tide." Donald Trump is now president-elect. Is his election a rejection of the benefits of inclusive economic and social policies, a rejection of preserving democracy, do you think?
Oh, by some, but only a small percentage. I think maybe more than half, but not much more than half of his voters. But we didn't have enough supporters who thought inclusive societies, inclusive capitalism, inclusive governance was more important than divisive governments, are more important than other things they cared about to prevail. So we had to just keep fighting. I can't say I was surprised. I had the feeling all along that at the end, this thing might break one way or the other, and all the so-called swing states would vote together because
that's what they do. The remarkable thing here, though, is he says we got to keep fighting. But what's also remarkable is you got to remember this is the second election in a row that Democrats have lost the presidency, where they ignored Bill Clinton's advice to focus on blue-collar voters and what matters with them, not on the woke stuff. They've ignored Clinton twice, and they've lost twice. They keep going with Barack Obama and losing. Obama was great for himself, but terrible for everyone else. Maybe they should pay more attention to people like Clinton and Carville, or hopefully they won't, and they'll keep losing.